Welcome to Science Corner Tutorials. We'll be looking at science concepts in depth. Get ready, let's get started. We want to apply the laws of logarithms that we learned about in our previous video. I'll leave the link in the description box so that you can access that video and make sure that you understand the laws of logarithms. So basically, when we applying, right, laws of logarithms, we want to make sure that we get to understand the basic concepts that we learned about in our first video. It's very important that you revisit that video and get the full understanding before you attempt to answer these problems. Right, so how are we going to do that? So I'm going to give you some problems here. We'll work them through together. Then I will leave you, a homework, some questions at the end, so that you can try and attempt to answer those ones. If you get them correct, it means that you're now good. And if you find any challenges, kindly let me know in the comment sections that I can explain to you in a way that you might understand. So the first question that we have is saying log of x base 3 minus 2 log of 3 base x is equal to 1. Right. So when solving this kind of a problem, it's very important for us, first of all, to realize that here we've got an equation that has got different bases. It's log 3x base 3 minus 2 log 3 base x. So the first step we want to do when solving this equation, step number 1, is to make sure that we convert and get the same base throughout the equation. So how are we going to do that? So remember that we say that when we want to change the base of the logarithm, we can just come and say 1 over log of 3, right, base x minus 2 log of 3 base x is equal to 1. So here I want you to note, guys, that we now have got a similar base, right? So from here we can now move on to our step number 2, right? So the second step, which is our step number 2, right? What are we doing in step number 2? So it might be tedious for you to work with log 3 base x throughout the equation. So what you want to do is you want to assign a constant to log 3 base x so that it will be easier for you to just work with that one. So you come here and say let log of 3 base x equal to 1, equal to y, right? Now, it means that wherever there is log 3 base x, you can now go and substitute with y, right? So you now come here, right? You now come here, and say 1 over y, you've substituted, minus 2y is equal to 1, right? You've done your substitution right here. So from here, you now move on to your step number 3. So in step number 3, what you're now doing is that you're now solving this equation. So here, if you multiply, so it's 1 over y minus 2y is equal to 1. So you can multiply the right-hand side by y, the left-hand side by y. So you're going to get 1 minus 2y squared is equal to y, right? You now want to regroup your equation, right? So on step number 4, number 4, what you're simply doing is that you're regrouping your equation. So you're going to get 1 plus 2y squared minus 1 is equal to 0. which is similar to just y, 2y squared plus y minus 1 is equal to 0, right? So that's your step number 4. Moving on now to the next step, which is step number 5. So on step number 5, you now want to solve your equation, right? So equation is saying 2y squared, right, plus y minus 1 is equal to 0. So how do you solve your equation? This one, you now come and say the product, right, and the sum. So you want a number whose product is, when you multiply this one here and this one here, you want minus 2. You get minus 2. Then you take this one, the constant, the number that is assigned to y, which is plus 1. So you want two numbers whose product is minus 2 and whose sum is 1. So those numbers are 2, right, and 1. But for you to be able to get minus 2 and to get a sum of plus 1, you need negative sign here. So those numbers are 2 and minus 1. If you multiply these, they'll give you minus 2. If you add them, they'll give you 1. So you now come here and say 2y squared plus 2y, right, minus y minus 1 is equal to 0. So you now solve here, so fix out 2y, y plus 1, fix out the negative sign, y plus 1, and you get your 0. So you're going to get 2y minus 1, y plus 1 is equal to 0. So this will mean that your y is either equal to minus 1 or your y, right, is equal to half. Right. So this is the first part of the equation. So either your y is equal to minus 1 or your y is equal to half. Right. So you now move on to the next part. Right. What is the next part? You don't stop here. Because remember, we have said let, right, log of 3 base x equal to y. So log of 3 base x is the one that is equal to either minus 1 or half. So you now have to come and reverse that. You now have to come and say log of 3 base x is equal to minus 1, or log of 3 base of x is equal to half. Right. Now, from here, what you need to do now is that you want to simplify your equation. You want to simplify this one. So it's using the laws of logarithms that we learned. So you're now going to get x, the power of minus 1, is equal to 3. That's how you solve the first part, which will give you now x is equal to 1 over 3. That's your first response. Or, right? Or x, the power of half, is equal to 3. Then you can square both sides to remove this half here. So you're going to get x is equal to 9. Right. So these are our two final answers for the equation. Right. So either x is equal to a third or x is equal to 9. These are our two answers when solving that equation. Now, another very important step that I want you guys to do, on a rough paper, right, as you are solving the equations, you can simply try and prove to see that is this the correct answer, right? Is this the correct answer that I got you? I want you to teach you guys a trick of how best you can prove to see whether you've gotten the correct answer or the answer that you've got is not really the correct one, right? So how do we do that now? How do we prove? Right? We now move to the next step. This is a trick that I'm teaching you guys. So we want to prove, right? And you do this on your side paper, not on the main answer sheet. Do this on the side paper, not on the main answer sheet, just to make sure that you have gotten the right answer. So remember, initially we had log of x base 3 minus 2 log of 3 base x is equal to 1. So this one here is your right hand side. And if it's an equation, the right hand side, it must be equal to the left hand side. Right. So we want to work with our right hand side here. So remember, the first answer that we got was our x is equal to a third, and the second one was our x is equal to 9. So you can come and say, you can take either of them, right? Come and say log of 3. Let's say you take x equal to 9, 9 minus 2 log of 3 base 9, right? This one must now give you 1. So we want to prove either this right hand side will give us 1. So what we need to do here first is that we want to get the common base. Remember that we say this is our first step. We want to make sure that you get a common base. So you now come here, right, and say log of 3 base 9 minus 2 over 1 over, right, log of 3, log of 9 base 3, sorry, log of 9 base 3. So what this means here is that you've got log of 9 base 3 minus 2 over log of 3 base 3, this being raised to the power of 2, because this one will give you 9 now. So it means this is log of 9 base 3 minus 2 over, right, 2 log of 3, the power of 3. But log 9 of base 3 is similar to 2 log of 3 base 3 minus 2 log 2, right, 2 log 3 base 3. Right, you now want to prove this one. You now get log 3 base 3 is equal to 1. So you get a 2, going to get 2, right, times 1, which is log 3 base 3, minus 2 over 2. Log 3 base 3 is going to give you 1, which will give you now 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. Therefore, right, what we've simply proven here is that our right hand side is equal to our left hand side, giving us the assurance that indeed either x is equal to 9 or x is equal to a third. You can now try and prove with 1 over 3. Right? So this is the trick that I want you guys to master and make sure that you're comfortable with. Right?